Welcome to the Investing in Artists Tools and Equipment Information Session. I'm Laura Poppity, Deputy Director at the Center for Cultural Innovation, and I want to thank you for joining us today. During this information session, we'll review the fund's guidelines and application and offer some general application tips. All of the information I'll be sharing with you today is available on the Investing in Artists Tools and Equipment webpage, where you'll find the grant guidelines, frequently asked questions, an application preview, and an optional project budget template. Let's begin with a high-level overview of this pilot opportunity. Investing in Artists Tools and Equipment will award grants of $1,000 to $5,000 to individual craft artists, craftspeople, and folk and traditional artists to purchase artistic tools, materials, or equipment that support their ability to make object-based work. The program is open to artists in the U.S. and its territories, with geographic eligibility rotating over the 2024 through 2026 funding cycle. A total of $50,000 is available in each round of funding. Competitive applicants will present a clear request, demonstrate a sustained commitment to their craft, and illustrate how funding will provide linchpin support, such as enabling the artist to meet demand, address safety requirements or other regulations, replace outdated or damaged equipment, or reach a higher standard of quality or craftsmanship. Investing in Artists, Tools, and Equipment is supported by the Maxwell Hanrahan Foundation and administered by the Center for Cultural Innovation, or CCI. And if you're not already familiar with CCI, I hope you'll check us out beyond this grant opportunity. We're a nonprofit arts and culture intermediary that's dedicated to individual artists and arts workers. Our headquarters are in California. However, we offer resources and programs that support arts workers everywhere. Eligibility. So who is eligible to apply for an Investing in Artists, Tools, and Equipment grant? To be eligible for funding considerations, applicants must meet the following criteria. Identify as an individual working craft artist. We define working craft artists as adults who are self-taught or have received training in an artistic discipline or tradition, such as through an apprenticeship, trade school, undergraduate or graduate program. They spend 10 hours or more a week on their artistic practice. They self-define as professional artists, and they attempt to derive an income from work in which they use their expert artistic practices and skills. To be eligible, you must also align with CCI's definition of craft. Now, CCI is a discipline-agnostic organization, so we don't identify any artistic discipline that we would prioritize. So in this case, we're going to borrow a definition of craft from our colleagues at the Craft Emergency Relief Fund, or CERF Plus. They describe craft as the creation of original objects by the skillful manipulation of materials. While objects may be created from traditional or non-traditional materials and be functional or non-functional, both types derive part of their meaning from their association with traditional functional forms, such as chairs, vessels, garments, or implements, and/or their association with a cultural tradition. Next, to be eligible, you must reside full-time in an eligible region. For the 2024 round of funding, craftspeople residing full-time in Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, Utah, Washington, Wyoming, or the U.S. territories of American Samoa, Guam, Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands are eligible to apply. In future funding rounds, that is the 2025 and 2026 funding rounds, different states will be eligible to apply. And you can see which states are eligible in the program's guidelines and frequently asked questions. Going back to eligibility criteria, you must have presented artistic work in a public context, and by public, we're including either online or digital platforms within the last 3 years. So that would be since 2021. Lastly, to be eligible, you must be 18 years or older at the time of the application deadline. Now, we just went over who's eligible for funding. And so we also want to point out, just so it's really clear, who and what are ineligible for consideration. These include artist collectives, co-ops, or collaboratives. Remember, you must be an individual artist to apply. Next, nonprofit or fiscally sponsored organizations. To be clear, artists who have their own 501c3 nonprofit or fiscally sponsored organization may apply, but they must apply as an individual and thus describe their request as it relates to their individual artistic practice. You are ineligible if you are a recipient of the Maxwell Hanrahan Award in Craft, which is administered by the United States Artists. Ineligible are incomplete applications and those with inaccessible work samples or other required files. You can't apply if you're a full-time or matriculating student. What that means, matriculating, is you are enrolled in a degree-seeking program, whether full-time or part-time. If you're taking classes to enhance your artistic techniques, or you're taking a one-off class in fundraising, that's acceptable. But if you are a full-time or part-time student in an academic institution, you are seeking a degree, you're ineligible at this time. Also ineligible are applicants who submit more than one application. Requests for routine materials or art supplies. Requests to support training in or experimentation with a new medium. Requests for fixed costs, for example, studio rent, equipment/tool insurance, and ongoing maintenance, or utilities. Requests to support capital improvements or repairs, purchases made before the grant award, which is November 2024, consultant fees, personal compensation, or payment of debts, credit card, loans, or other financial responsibilities. And then lastly, if you have a conflict of interest, which we define as an active family or financial relationship with the boards, staff, and directors of either CCI or the Maxwell Hanrahan Foundation, you're ineligible to apply. Since this is a new program, we want to provide a few examples of eligible requests. These may include repairs to broken equipment, new or used tool or equipment purchases, the installation of equipment, so installation costs associated with that equipment, materials needed to build equipment, and that would be separate or not considered those routine art materials, or tools or equipment storage. Now, just to be clear, these are examples of eligible requests. This is not an exhaustive representation of the only types of requests that we will review. We just want to give a few examples to help in you all figuring out what to apply for. Before we discuss how applications will be assessed, let's talk about who will do the assessment. For investing in artists, tools, and equipment, CCI will invite grant review panelists with craft expertise to review eligible applications, score them, and make award recommendations. Reviewers change every year and are generally rooted in the regions served by the grant. So to evaluate your applications, panelists will use these criteria. First is vision. The proposed project is clear and has a strong rationale. Details are provided about the specific tools/equipment requested, the associated costs, timeline, resources needed and their status, and other considerations required to carry out the project. Next, panelists will look at impact. The proposed project will offer vital linchpin support that will impact the artist's career and ability to produce work, enabling them to meet demand, adhere to safety requirements or other regulations, replace outdated or damaged equipment, reach a higher standard of quality or craftsmanship, or realize other professional needs. And by linchpin support, we want to understand how the proposed project is essential to facilitating the applicant's artistic practice and career and ensuring that both can flourish. The last review criterion is artistry. The applicant demonstrates a sustained commitment to their discipline by way of training, record of artistic achievement / cultural relevance, and quality of work. Now we're going to discuss the application. As listed in our guidelines, applications must be submitted through Submittable, which is CCI's online grants platform. We will not accept applications through email or otherwise. The Investing in Artists application is pretty straightforward. It collects your contact information, the discipline and medium in which you work, the amount you're requesting. Remember, you can only request from 1,000 to 5,000 or anywhere in between. And you'll provide a one-sentence summary of your project. From there, you'll continue to the narrative section. Friends, the narrative section is going to be the first place where you'll be making a case for your alignment with the review criteria. You'll see there are 3 questions, and they line up perfectly with the 3 criteria we just reviewed. The first question asks you to describe the tools / equipment you need, their purpose, timeline for acquisition, resources needed to support this request and their status, and any other details that will help to illustrate your project. Next, you're asked about impact by explaining how the proposed project will provide vital linchpin support to your career and ability to produce work. And then finally, you're asked about your artistry, and you'll provide a brief statement about your artistic practice and the nature of your work. The first 2 questions are limited to 350 words, which is roughly 4 paragraphs, 4-ish. And then the final question about your artistic practice is limited to 150 words, which is roughly 2 paragraphs. After the narrative section, you'll need to upload a 1-page version of your resume, just 1 page. We ask for a resume because it's a helpful at-a-glance reference for panelists to familiarize themselves with your experience and activities in the field. It also helps to demonstrate the review criterion of artistry. From there, you'll upload a 1-page version of your project budget. The project budget is a tool for conveying to panelists how funding will support the acquisition or repair, or both, of artistic tools and equipment, and any associated eligible expenses such as labor or installation, storage, and safety training. Like the resume, your project budget is going to help make the case for alignment with the review criteria, specifically the criterion of vision. Project budgets have an income and an expense section. The income section should list the Investing in Artists, tools, and equipment grant amount that you're requesting. You'll also list your expense line items. If your total expenses exceed your Investing in Artists, tools, and equipment requested grant amount, you'll want to list additional income sources and their status. We have a sample project budget template for your reference, and we'll go over that in just a moment. Lastly, just to round out our budget section on this slide, there is a required budget notes section. This is where you can elaborate on any expense or income line items that need clarification. The budget notes section is limited to 150 words. Notes can be bulleted or in narrative format, whichever is easier. We strongly encourage all applicants to take advantage of this section. But if applicants have no notes or they've included contextual notes in the budget itself and feel no other clarification is needed, they can enter not applicable in this section. So this is the sample project budget template that I referenced in the previous slide. It's also on the Investing in Artists Tools and Equipment webpage on CCI's website. You are not required to use this template at all. We want you to use the budget template or budget format rather that you are most comfortable with. This template we're just providing as a resource, which we thought might be especially helpful for first-time grant applicants. For those who do want to follow this format, you'll see that in the income section, we've listed examples of contributed and earned revenue sources and their status of being committed, pending, or projected. In the expense section, we've listed sample project expenses that in this case, a ceramicist might have, including a new kiln with lots of customization and a new pottery wheel. We also included installation costs, delivery and installation costs with these items. We also noted, because we wanted to preempt any questions the panelists might have, we included a shipping and tax line item, and we indicated that it's zero, right? There's no cost, because we just wanted to make it clear that this is the retail cost of the items. That is all we're paying for. We are not including, or there is no shipping or tax on these items. However, there is a delivery and installation fee. Your budget notes would also be a place where you could elaborate on items like this. And again, strongly encourage you to do so. The final application component we'll discuss is the work samples. The work samples are a critical part of the application and should represent your artistic work in the best possible light. Indeed, the work samples are going to be a visual testament to your alignment with artistry, to be sure, and perhaps vision and impact too. Panelists will spend up to 5 minutes total viewing work samples. Generally, it's best to select examples of recent work, so 2021 or later. Arrange or upload your samples in the order in which they should be viewed by panelists, and if applicable, share work related to the proposed project. A minimum of 5 and no more than 10 high-resolution images of artwork created since 2021 are required. To continue our conversation, one-sided, about work samples, we want to remind you that they must be uploaded either individually to the Submittable platform or uploaded in a single document to Submittable. In either case, the sample must be accompanied by its title, medium, dimensions, and the year created. You may also include up to 2 sentences of contextual information. For example, we made up a work sample description that you do not have to replicate by any measure, but we did just want to show the baseline information or details that you will want to include, which is, in this case, the title, vessel, the medium, Monterey pine with epoxy resin. And we can also think of medium as materials. The dimensions, 15 by 25 inches. And then the year created, 2020. Oops, should have been 2021, should have been more recent. We also included contextual information in this case that we thought was appropriate for the proposal that we're putting forth. And we noted that this piece, vessel, is part of the artist's exploration into the perception of flaws in nature. Now, these contextual sentences that you include, it can talk about maybe where the work was exhibited, where it was sold, its value, the collection it's part of, anything that you think is germane or relevant to the application overall, and then helpful for your panelists in interpreting the work sample. If you want to upload images individually, we accept JPEG and PNG files. We just want to note that if you're doing the individual uploads, the field where you will include your work sample description, it will not appear until after the upload is completed. After you've uploaded the file, you'll see the field where you can enter your description. Alternatively, if you want to upload images in a single document, we will accept DOC, DOCX, and PDF files. We want to point out that each image and its description should be displayed on a letter size, which is 8 by 5 by 11 inches page. So you'll have the image and the description on page 1. Next page, image, description, and so on. Timeline. Let's review some key program dates. So first, the application is open. It opened on July 10th, so it's been open a little over, or just about 2 weeks at this point. We are also going to be hosting, starting July 31st, application drop-ins or drop-in Q&As. We're going to host 3 of these at different times, but on all Wednesdays. The drop-ins will take place on Zoom, and they're for applicants to drop in and ask grant-related questions. These are not formal presentations like I'm giving right now, nor will they be recorded. Rather, this is an opportunity for you to casually drop in and ask any questions that are coming up for you. You can stay for the full hour, or you can ask your question, get a response, and leave. We do, though, ask that you register for the drop-ins, and we have a link on the Investing in Artists, Tools and Equipment webpage where you can do that. Next, very important, critical date is the application deadline, which is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024 at 11:59 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And I should also mention that all of our times here are in the Pacific time zone, which is right now Pacific Daylight Time. We're an organization headquartered in California, hence our use of Pacific time zone. We have added to our website a table that lists all of this year's eligible states and territories, your time zone, depending on where you're located, and the date and time of the application deadline, depending on where you are located. But please just be sure that you know that this is the deadline and to adhere to it, no matter where you are applying from. Next, we are letting you know that application notifications will go out on November 20th, 2024 by 5 p.m. At that point, we'll be in Pacific Standard Time. You'll want to, on that day, check your spam folder if you haven't heard from CCI. You can also view your application status by logging into your submittable account. Depending on the volume of applications that are received, feedback on decline requests may be provided in writing, via a one-on-one phone appointment, or through a general feedback session. Those details will be provided in the notification that you receive. And then next, we're just noting that the grant support period is December 2024 through December 2025. That just means that's when your activity can take place. It can happen quickly, but you have 12 months to spend the funds and realize the project that you've proposed. For our last slide, we've put together a few tips that can support your submission to Investing in Artists, Tools, and Equipment, as well as your grant proposals in general. The first item is to review all grant ephemera, the guidelines, frequently asked questions, application preview, project budget, and attend those drop-in Q&As. These are all materials that have been prepared for you to support your application, so you might as well take advantage of them. Next, be clear and to the point, and avoid responses that are overly technical or dense/abstract. This goes back to the review criterion regarding vision, where the proposed project is clear and has a strong rationale. It's really tempting to use fancy words and industry terms. Avoid this. You'll have panelists who are representing various craft mediums, and they may not understand jargon that's specific to your discipline. Next is answer the question, which seems really intuitive, and yet it is so easy to miss the mark on. So remember to answer all components of an application's narrative question and preempt any lingering questions that panelists might have by providing specifics. This goes for the budget and work samples. Don't leave out the status of your income sources. Don't leave out budget notes. And don't leave out those work sample descriptions. Next, we really encourage you to have a friend or other colleague or trusted peer look over your application to see if any important details were left out or whether anything is unclear. When you're working so closely to a project, it's easy to omit some of its most fundamental aspects. So it's really helpful to have a fresh set of eyes on your draft application. Well, I guess penultimately is apply early. Oh, way easier said than done. But do it if you can. Advantages to applying early are that if needed, you can get tech support from Submittable and make the deadline. Also, if you apply early and you realize that you made a mistake or you left something out, you can reach out to CCI with a request to edit your application. And 99% of the time, we are able to open up your application so you can make the desired edits. We also want to encourage you to apply early so that you don't run into any technical issues at the last minute. And then finally, our tip is to you all out there is to reach out to us if you have any questions. We're here to support you. Contact us by email at grants@cciarts.org or call us at 415-713-7650. And as a small team that works remotely, email is usually the best way to reach us. And I just want to really emphasize that no question is bad or poor. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that you put forth the strongest and most competitive application. So do get in touch if you have any questions. And with that, we are concluding our presentation. Thank you for watching and take very, very, very good care. Thank you.